The reference for this lecture is Martin Rebellion, 2012. Why Don't We See Poverty Convergence? In the American Economic Review, 102, Volume 1, pages 504 to 523. We started the course with the concept of development by Amartya Sen. We have learned that growth does not adequately measure well-being and capability deprivation leads to concerns that require public action. Next, Deaton's article taught us why lack of understanding of the mechanism of development issues lead to unrealistic predictions and costly public action in poor nations. In this third lecture, we study the relationship of growth with poverty and inequality in the developing nations. Martin Rebellion, in the article on poverty convergence, empirically proves his hypothesis that high initial poverty of a country dampens income growth as well as the pace of poverty reduction and keeps the country poor. Martin Rebellion is an Australian economist who worked with the World Bank for several years and extensively worked on the issues related to poverty. Following the implications of the Solow model, development theory comes up with the possibility of convergence in per capita incomes over time. Poor countries grow faster and catch up with the rich countries. Rebellion calls it advantage of backwardness. The experience of East Asia and Southeast Asia with high levels of growth and increase in per capita incomes since the 80s gives hope that it is possible for any poor country to catch up with the developed countries. The theory of economic development, supported by empirical studies, show that higher mean per capita income leads to lower incidence of poverty, which Rebellion calls advantage of growth. These two facts combined together ideally result in poverty convergence. Poverty convergence results in a rate of reduction commensurate with the rate of growth in mean income. The data compiled by Martin Rebellion for 90 countries between mid-90s and mid-2000 does not show poverty convergence. There has been a decline in the poverty, but the rate of reduction has not been accelerating. He hypothesized that initial level of poverty of a country being very high dampens the mean income growth and prevents growth from reducing poverty substantially. He empirically proves that in this article. A large part of the literature on the mechanism of growth convergence concentrated on inequality as a barrier to growth. Past literature has established a negative relationship between income growth and inequality. There are several ways in which both inequality and poverty act as barriers to growth. First, inequality reduces growth through reduction in investment in physical capital and human capital, manifested through credit constraints and failure of credit markets. Second, present income inequality leads to future decline in wealth and marginal returns to capital keep falling over time. Third, public policies pursued prevent efficiency enhancing investment in public goods and efficiency enhancing structural reforms. Fourth, small size of the middle class, a consequence of the inequality, prevents the country from saving enough and hence growth suffers. Past literature has recognized the ill effects of poverty in income growth. First, worker productivity is low due to health and nutritional problems of the poor. Low worker productivity results in low per capita income. Second, past neglect of nutrition affects current ability in terms of work productivity and, more importantly, in terms of learning ability of children and youth and dampens the future growth. Third, low life expectancy leads to impatience for consumption and low preference for savings, crucial for growth. Fourth, poverty traps result in low saving and investment in the economy. The economy gets stuck at low level of steady state. Fifth, preference for consumption over saving is a natural choice for the poor. Sixth, failure of public action to meet the subsistence requirements results in low growth. 7. Borrowing constraints imposed on the poor reduce investment and capital accumulation in the economy. The central argument of this paper is that even when inequality is unchanged, the high level of initial poverty dampens income growth. Trevelyan argues that if we have equations to test convergence of mean income with initial mean income and initial inequality but exclude initial poverty, inequality picks up the high initial poverty effect to show that it prevents convergence. According to Trevelyan, the main culprit is initial poverty and not inequality, as the past literature made us to believe. Trevelyan in this article fits a series of equations to the data of developing countries to test the role of poverty, inequality, and the size of middle class in the economy. Poverty convergence was a neglected aspect of the literature. The neglect of poverty convergence in the literature is due to established notion that mean income growth alleviates poverty, but poverty dampening effect on growth is not understood while that of inequality is recognized. The log difference in poverty rates, which is nothing but the rate of reduction of poverty, is proportionally equal to the growth rates adjusted for inequality. Inequality adjusted growth rate is ordinary growth rate multiplied by 1 minus inequality index. If consumption follows log normal distribution, and if the variance in consumption does not change, elasticity of poverty rate to mean consumption will decrease in poverty rates and inequality index. The data set consists of household surveys of 90 countries at 3 to 5 time points for each country. Poverty and inequality are directly calculated from the primary unit level data on income and expenditure. All the countries for which the earliest available data shows poverty have been included in the study. Many East European Central Asian countries did not have poverty earlier, and poverty was an issue after the breakup of the erstwhile Soviet Union, and hence they do not qualify to be treated on par with the developing countries. Consumption data was preferred over the income data. The dates of the survey were not uniform, and the interval between the surveys were also not uniform. The median time period of the surveys ranged between 1991 and 2004. All variables used in Trevelyan's study are annualized between the periods. GI-XIT is equal to ln-XIT divided by XIT minus I tau divided by tau gives the growth rate of Xi, and tau stands for the number of years since the initial poverty. That is, the growth in any variable for a country is given by the ratio of the current value to its initial value divided by the number of years since the initial growth. The logarithm of the entire expression gives the annualized growth rate. All monetary variables used are at current prices and at purchasing power parity to facilitate international comparisons. The study uses 3 poverty rates: $2 per day, $1.25 per day, and $13 per day. Poverty line of USA is $13. Inequality is measured in Gini index. 4 measures of middle classes are used. First, population living between $2 and $13 represents the developing country middle class. Second, population living above $13 represents the middle class and rich by the Western standards. Third, consumption shares controlled by 3 middle quantiles is another measure of middle class. Fourth, Miser index given by the difference between the mean income of the overall population and the mean income of the population below poverty line multiplied by poverty ratio, and it is the inverse of the middle class, where HIT interacted with mu IT minus mu IT H, where HIT is the head count ratio of poverty and mu IT is the mean income of the population, and mu ITH is the mean income of the poverty group below the poverty line.